What they really want is complete control over their time.
I think that a lot of management styles, especially in large organizations, can permeate into micromanagement.
We're so busy with the old currency of work, time, and location that we have lost our way.
I think that one of the key points that comes to me when you say it is trust, right? You have to trust your employees.
That might work there, but it doesn't work here.
So what I'm hearing from you is clarity builds trust.
We're living in a contemporary society with a 20th century management mindset.
Welcome to the podcast From Cold to Close. My name is Saeed and I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, a company that works with professional services firms from around the world to help them increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. My guest today is Jody Thompson, co-founder and CEO of CultureRX, a company that provides the necessary lifelines to support successful adoption throughout results-only work environment implementation. Jody is a results-focused senior executive with over 20 years of experience positively affecting organizational culture for hundreds of teams and businesses worldwide, and works with organizations with leadership teams that are action-oriented, courageous, and fully committed to winning. She's also named as one of the 6 people who get it by Dan Pink in his book Drive, alongside Peter Drucker, Jim Collins, and Gary Hamel. Jody, pleasure to have you on the podcast.
I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. And I always try and give you the best introduction I can, but at the same time, I always find that the best place to start is to allow you to give us, viewers, listeners, an idea of your origin story, how you got to where you are, and a little bit more background on yourself from the horse's mouth. So are you able to share a little bit more?
I absolutely am. You know, the background about the results-only work environment is interesting. It's been around for 20 years now, believe it or not. And back in its inception, I was at a Fortune 100 company in the United States, and we were trying to figure out how to do something different than flexibility. Now, flexibility is the game, still is the game. Everybody's doing flexibility. But we were trying to figure out, what do people really want to be engaged and to work here and to have great lives and all the things we want people to have. And we learned something very interesting, Saeed. We learned that people don't really want flexibility. What they really want is complete control over their time. Complete control over their time. Not a permission-based culture where I ask permission of my manager to do something different, but a world where I am liberated from that. I make my own choices every day, and I'm really, really clear about what I'm doing for the organization. So I know what my measurements are and all of that. Well, how do you create that, right? It's kind of, where do you start? And we figured out, and this is what the results-only work environment is, it's a platform of 100% accountability and 100% autonomy, which is a very differentiated platform. And when we started to experiment with that back in 2004, it was like rocking the world of this company because it was so different. But we've learned over the years that this is the future, and it's a great journey, it's a fun journey, and it really inspires people and leaders once they're in it.
I think that's really interesting. It's been more than 20 years since its inception. And now more than ever, especially post-pandemic, a lot of organizations are realizing that, as you mentioned, in their minds, flexibility is the way to go because people are working from home, you've got remote working, hybrid working, things like that. And so what's the benefit of results-only work environment versus an environment that is flexible? What's the difference?
So flexibility is an interesting thing because if you're going to be flexible, Saeed, you have to be flexible around something else. So flexibility is around the notion that 8 to 5, Monday through Friday in an office is the default. And now anything we do around that is just another policy or program to break that up a little bit. But here's the problem. We're still controlling people. We haven't changed anything. Hybrid is a control of my time and location. The 4-day work week is flex time. All of that is the same. And so I feel like I might have gotten myself into a better situation. Oh, goody, I get to work from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That is still control. And what am I focused on? I'm focused first on where I'm working from and getting permission to do that. So these programs, and even post-pandemic, people think, well, the world has changed. We get to work from home. We get, flexibility. We haven't changed, not even a tiny. So we're still wondering, are people still working when they're at home? Are they walking their dog? Are they, letting us know when they're going to the dentist? It's the same. Everything's the same. It just, we kind of moved the food around on the plate a little bit. So what I want to see people and leaders who are willing to break free from that status quo and that old playbook of needing to manage people instead of managing work more effectively. We're so busy with the old currency of work, time, and location that we have lost our way. But boy, we know when Saeed's working from home and when Saeed's in the office, and did Saeed get on his computer at 8 o'clock? Whatever that is, those are the wrong signals to determine if we're working or we're engaged. The wrong signals.
It's a really profound point you mentioned there, because I think that a lot of management styles, especially in large organizations, can permeate into micromanagement. And what you say there often aligns with micromanagement. It's like, okay, make sure you do the work, but are you logging in at this time? Or, you have to go to work. You have to look for that permission to be able to go to the doctors and come back. And it's not about necessarily the results that are driving your behaviors. It's the permission-based environment, right? You're still looking for that permission. So is that the problem that you were looking to achieve when you first went down the direction of creating the results owning, when bringing this innovative idea into the place with the results only work environment? What problem were you looking to solve for?
Well, what we were trying to solve for was actually getting talent, today's talent, right? How are we going to get talent and keep talent? We were in a very competitive market, and we wanted to make sure we had a workplace that people wanted to be part of. And it needed to be very different. And so, like I said before, Saeed, we figured out people wanted control over their time. What we did then is we looked at all the things in the environment that actually were not giving people complete control over their time. And we figured out that where the true innovation needed to happen was between the managers and the people that do work. And that's where you're talking about the permission-based idea. We had to completely break that sort of hierarchical idea that you're my boss and you manage me. That's what we had to break. And so we were solving for all the things companies are solving for today. Get the talent, keep the talent, engagement, productivity, all of those things. But the way we've been going about it for the past, 7, 8 decades has not changed. We still feel that if we manage people, and we believe they can't manage themselves, then we're going to produce outcomes. We do produce outcomes, but we don't know how high is. When you start freeing people up and giving them autonomy, which, by the way, is supported by social science, you're going to get much more out of people. And we learned that as we started taking away the idea that a manager gives me permission about where and when I work. When we took that away, and then we said, you have to be 100% accountable to the work. So now managers, you got to get really clear about that. That changed everything. It seems simple, but it really changed everything in terms of people's work-family conflict issues. They were healthier. They felt more connected to the purpose of the organization. They liked their coworkers better. It's just amazing what can happen when you remove the control for where it doesn't need to be, people, and you give the control to where it really needs to be, and that's what you hired me to do. And that's produce results, not be managed by a time clock.
I think that one of the key points that comes to me when you say it is trust, right? You have to trust your employees. And that's something that I guess many leaders, business owners, whoever is hiring a team leader, whoever it might be, that can be maybe one of the hardest bits. You've obviously hired someone because you trust that they can do the job. And then you bring them into your ecosystem and then you go, no, actually do it the way that I want you to do, or this is how you should do it. And that's hidden by, we have standard procedures, etc. But how do you navigate that question of trust when someone comes into the organization? Because I'm sure it's easy to say, you just got to trust them. But what is it that you need to do to be able to build that results only?
It's exhausting to me to hear that trust word. And here's why. Just like you said, just trust the people, right? You just need to trust them. But everything that we do as managers and as leaders says, I don't trust you. So when I look at trust, I say, well, I trust you, Saeed, if you do what you said you were going to do, right? So if you said you were going to deliver something to me on a Tuesday and you don't, then I don't trust you. Okay, so we don't start out with you need to trust people in the results only work environment. We instead remove all the barriers and put people on an adult platform, right, of autonomy and accountability. Now, in a results-only work environment, if you don't deliver what you say you're going to deliver, you don't fit in that culture. So now what happens is trust starts to grow organically rather than trying to put, technical fixes in place to try to say, well, maybe we'll not trust you, Saeed, for the first 90 days. That's an arbitrary thing. That doesn't mean anything. So we grow trust organically. We don't wait for it to happen or dictate that it needs to happen. We build it by being clear about what we need to do for each other and with each other, and then we do it. That builds trust.
So what I'm hearing from you is clarity builds trust. Trust actually builds more trust. And also being able to give people a platform to actually do what they say they're going to do, right? And letting them carry that out. I think the next question I want to ask you then, following on from that, is why should leaders interested in efficiency and effectiveness take notice of this kind of human resource kind of strategy? I'm sure there's many people out there thinking, I just can't see it working for my organization, or this team is just not my team. It might work for you, but it will never work for my team or my organization. So what's your thoughts on that?
Saeed, I've heard that a billion times. That might work there, but it doesn't work here. And what I say to that is focusing on results and being clear with people. How can that not work? Like you're saying you don't need to be clear, right? That doesn't seem right. Organizations for decades have been talking about efficiency and effectiveness. And we have a time in history now with technology advances that we can be efficient and effective. We don't all have to get up and get dressed and take an hour to get to the office and all those things. But you're going to immediately decrease efficiency and effectiveness by using the old currency of work, which is time, counting time plus location equals results. So now, if I have to put in a certain number of hours a week, even if I'm done with my work, I'm just going to spread my work out. I'm going to fill time, and I'm not going to be efficient. Why should I be? First of all, I'm disengaged because I really could go picking up my daughter at school, but I'm not going to do that because I'll be judged and I'm not working hard enough and Saeed's a harder worker than me and whatever that looks like. So we have undermined efficiency and effectiveness for people by, number one, making them obligated to workplace rules that are outdated. And two, not holding people accountable to the real work. That's where efficiency and effectiveness is going to live. We need to back off from managing people's time and location and lean in on getting clear about results and giving people the opportunity to succeed or fail based on that. All of us can follow rules, right? But not all of us can take charge of that idea that I can drive my own life. Now, I will tell you this, as we've implemented the results-only work environment globally, we found that a very, very, very tiny percentage of people, can't step up to the plate. Most people can. They become more efficient, they become more effective, they communicate better, all of those things. If all you want to do is sit in a cube and count your time, then you don't fit in the results-only work environment.
I really like this. I love what you're saying there. What I'm hearing is a results-only work environment creates better behaviors that results in better leaders, right? Because the behaviors you develop are behaviors that you would see in a good leader, right? And someone that takes responsibility, that someone that is autonomous, that someone will go out of their way to hit things on as projected, right? So I think that's a really interesting point you mentioned there, because it strikes me as a model to follow if you want to build leaders within an organization on a consistent basis. And it also makes me look back at my early career when I worked at large accounting firms and consulting firms, and they would charge by the hour, and you would have people going, oh, I've got this amount of work, but you're pulling it along just to get through the end of the day. And then you have other people who've finished all their work and they get punished for being efficient, right? They're getting punished for being efficient, and then they get overloaded with more work because they have more time to do it. And then before you know it, you're creating a culture that is not conducive to how people want to live and work, right?
Absolutely. You're spot on. I like to say, yes, this builds a different kind of leader, but it also builds a different kind of organization. And what I like to say to leaders is when you're sort of out in your space, leading, ask yourself this question. Are my behaviors increasing accountability or decreasing it? And are my behaviors increasing autonomy or decreasing it? The second that I say something like, well, we all collaborate better when we're in the office, am I increasing accountability? And to what, right? And am I increasing or decreasing autonomy? So a leader can say things that tell people what that leader expects. And if I say, I like when people are in the office because they communicate better, even though that's not true or it's not researched or whatever, I'm signaling I'm going to be happier when I see people. And so we're all going to come in, right? Because if Saeed comes in all the time and I don't, Saeed's the one that gets recognized. I don't. So that's something that leaders, especially today, if they want efficiency and effectiveness and they want to get the talent and have people be engaged, they have to take a big step back and look at their own behaviors. What kind of culture are they building? A one of compliance or one of obligation or one of opportunity? They need to ask themselves that question.
I think it's so true. And I have this challenge in my own organization, and you feel like you have to pull people along and trying to almost hand out a process that you've created yourself to help them get through. But you're bringing someone in to have that autonomy, right? To have a level of autonomy, to be able to go, okay, well, let me hit the ground running. Let me show you what I can do. Let me make things better for you in the organization.
Right.
And then it's early on in their career where they can really learn, develop, and also rise up the ranks. So I think there's some really interesting points there. What does meaningful employee engagement really look like now then? And are we listening to the right signals? You talk a lot about behaviors, you talk a lot about certain things. Tell me more.
So engagement is interesting, and we've been measuring engagement for many decades. And I think sometimes we look at the wrong signals when we're looking at engagement. I might think somebody's engaged if they're, on at 7:30 in the morning. I can see that they're on their computer while they're on at 6 o'clock at night. They really smile a lot at the meetings. They get excited about a meeting. This is all stuff that's around obligation, right? It's not necessarily engagement. So we're measuring the wrong things when we look at that. So if you want to look at engagement a different way, you're not going to look at those kind of optics anymore. People are engaged when they're reaching their outcomes, getting their work done, working with others, growing, they are trusted. All those things we're trying to build, that drives engagement. So you have to value outcomes over optics in today's world if you're going to drive engagement. So those old games we used to play, and I remember them well. We used to, carry around a lot of folders, when we walked around. That's optics, right? Oh, you look like you're engaged. We would come in really early. We would leave our workstation at night and leave our coats on the back of our chairs. So it looks like we're still in the building. Optics, right? So we have to move past that to not using those types of cues to determine if people are actually working. We have to actually look at the actual work and everybody being on the same level playing field of having the same opportunities to move about in their life so that they're the most effective and efficient they can be, rather than following old, outdated rules and the old playbook and being, fenced in, so to speak, to that. So we have to flip our mindset on that engagement thing. And that's hard.
Exactly, because you're asking someone, there's a set of beliefs and behaviors that people have, and they might have gathered it from their previous careers, from the previous organizations, and then they come into an environment where they have to rewire everything about them. And so that becomes a very tough thing. And it reminds me of this, when I first started in my career, as I mentioned before, in a large accounting and consulting firm, there was a senior manager who was striving to be a partner, and I remember it so clearly. We sat on the same pod, and I would obviously, as a junior, be working quite late, and he would be working late to the point where he would always look over his shoulder to see if the head partner was still around. As soon as the head partner had left, and all the partners, he's usually the last leave, as soon as he left, 5 minutes later, he's packing up his stuff, and then he's also following up. And it reminds me of the term you just used there in optics, right? And it's so important to look like you're doing the work, so important to look like you're the right person for the job rather than necessarily the work itself. And don't get me wrong, his work was fantastic as well, but it was interesting to learn that very early on in my career. Now you're seeing it post-pandemic world where it's very hard to just do optics, especially if you're doing remote work, hybrid work. You're on a Zoom screen, you smile, this and that, but the outcome side of things really does matter more now, especially more than ever before, I would say. Maybe you would disagree with that, but I imagine it's become more necessary than previously because of the fact that the world has changed so much.
Yes, and it's easy to look like you're working.
Yeah.
It's not so easy to achieve outcomes and measurable results. And that's what we need to start moving towards, because the more you get clarity around that, the less you need the optics. If I'm uncomfortable and I don't know what you're doing, it's because we don't have clarity around the outcome and the measures you need to achieve. We're not talking about the work. We're talking about how, you had the best meetings last week. That's optics. So I think we've taken kind of the games we've been playing inside the corporate office or wherever the workplace is, and we've recreated those games.
Yeah.
In a kind of virtual world so look, I'm working, see, I'm working because I'm so nervous that somebody's going to think I'm slacking off.
Yeah.
Get clear on outcomes, get clear on measures, clarity. Then you can start moving away from all that other crap that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Optics.
exactly. I feel like before I started my own business, when I was still in corporate, and I remember when just as COVID came along, I remember always worrying about when we were working remotely, about my team's icon going yellow, right? And rather than having green or blue,
You're killing me.
oh my gosh, like someone's going to think I'm not doing any work. Oh, I'm away from my
Yep.
desk. What's going to happen? No one knows. And that cycle, it plays into psychology of, oh my gosh, like what do I do? Like, I don't know how to handle it. I need to quickly get back on. Maybe someone's seen things like that. So you're always thinking of an excuse. And it provides an additional level of anxiety and stress, I would have thought, in a different way. Just because you're not clear on necessarily the outcomes, you're more thinking about in-person workplace culture and optics and things like that. So I think it's really interesting points you mentioned there.
And it's so liberating to let go of that.
Oh, 100%.
It's just, I had one leader say to me, it's like everybody in my team grew 3 feet taller. There was such a burden lifted off of people, because I believe people want to do good work. They want to be clear. They want to be able to, in their whole lives, everything that they do, they want to be successful. Friends, family, work, all of that. And where our stress comes from and our overwork feeling and some of those other things is chasing that idea that I have to look like I'm dedicated and working hard. And not being clear is really, really stressful, because I'm trying so hard to, push paper around and whatever I need to do to look like I'm achieving something. Let's get clear so that people can live and feel good about all those areas of their lives.
Yeah, no, that leads me to my next question in that people are still talking about being burnt out and overworked, and those terms haven't disappeared since changes in the world that's happened. Does a results-only working environment actually relieve some of that stress? What's your experience with it?
In a word, yes, it does.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring social.
You say that.
Yeah, I better not say no to that. So I'm going to bring some social science in, because, it's interesting to look at what we've known for decades and how we don't listen to it. So back in 1979, that was a long time ago, Robert Karasek, who was a social scientist, did a study on the idea of demands and control. Okay, so we have a lot of demands in our lives, and then there's a level of control we have. It's either high or low. So when you look at the demands in our lives, it includes everything in our life. Our kids are, we have to eat, we have to do all the things. We have to take showers, clean the house, all of it. And we have work demands. Now, where stress comes in and the feeling of overwork, is what Robert Karasek talked about, is when you have high demands and low control, that's where you're stressed out and feeling overworked. So with results-only work environment, we said we have to raise the level of control people have to the highest possible level so that you can meet the demands everywhere. So he learned that when he looked at people that had a lot of work demands, but low control, they were stressed out, right? If they looked at that same person and they raised their level of control, so we're going to call that autonomy, completely changed how they felt about the demands and the stress. So it seems so simple.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It isn't, because we're a command and control type world, right? And how we think about work. Even though in all the other areas of our lives, we have control over our technology, we have control over our TV. There's all of these ways that we can have our own personal experience and control it, except the workplace, where we're not clear and we're controlled. So that's what we need to change. And that's autonomy and accountability in its purest form. Now, Saeed, I wish it was easy.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes what people don't realize in leaders is that this is a journey, and it has a lot of potholes, because what we believe that we've been holding on for our whole lives has to be let go of. And that's what we do. I mean, that's how we support leaders and support organizations when we take them through this journey, is because we've seen the pitfalls and we know we can anticipate them and help people move beyond it in a way that feels okay and good.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially because it is an unknown way of working at right now. Maybe in 20 years time that changes, maybe not, but it is 100% a very unknown way of operating, especially in modern day. And so having someone there that goes, okay, well, we've done this many times before with many other organizations. I know exactly what this roadmap looks like. I know where the pitfalls are. I know where you're going to fall. I know this might happen. What happens? What do you do when this happens? Having someone there hold your hand and go, okay, well, no, this is the way you should be walking. It gives people a little bit more confidence in actually implementing and having a successful implementation of, I guess, a results-only work environment.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, the second you hit a pothole, you go back to what you were comfortable with. It's like, oh, that was hot stove. I'm going to go back here and everybody in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
So we help people not fall back into that trap by adopting a new belief system and new behaviors that are actually going to make them more successful. And then when they start to realize that, they're like, okay, why was I ever doing that? We like to look at it this way, Saeed. It's sort of like the movie The Matrix, where we're plucking people outside the matrix. And then they're looking in and going, oh my gosh, what were we doing? And then they see what it can be. And so we just continue to pluck them out and put them in a situation that is not the status quo anymore. They're creating the new status quo. They're creating the new platform, and they're going to be the leaders of the future.
Yeah. It reminds me of the term, you don't know what you don't know, right? And a lot of business leaders, a lot of leaders in general won't necessarily know that this kind of, they might have heard of the term results only work environment or results only, that type of thing, but they don't know what it actually takes to implement and put it into practice, right? And what happens in the back end. In your opinion then, why aren't more organizations hopping on board with this idea, this belief system, this concept, this way of working and a new way of life? Why do you think?
So, Saeed, when we first conceptualized the results-only work environment, we thought it would be wildfire. Once people saw the results from a couple of other companies, and there was also a long longitudinal study by the National Institutes of Health proving what we've been saying about it, right? But what's stronger than that is my belief system as a leader, and to what you said at the very beginning of this, that's not going to work here, right? That's not going to work here. Our belief system is way stronger than any intellectual thing that somebody's telling us. So we like to say this, you can maybe get it on this level. I understand that. Not going to work here. The next step is I have to buy into it. I have to believe that I can do it. And I also have to believe that I can let go of old stuff. I have to believe that. And that's where I can do it. So we're stuck at the top. We're stuck at, I can see what you're saying over there. Yeah, we kind of already do that. We're fine. Our results are good. We don't need that. They don't know how high is high, and they haven't experienced looking from outside the matrix, so they don't really know what it is. And one way I explain it, people that have kids, before you had your first child, You read the books about it.
Mm.
You knew exactly how you were going to do it. My child is never going to scream for candy in the store. They're going to sleep through the night at 6 weeks. No colic. You read all of that and then you envision how it's all going to be. And then you have the child and you're like, okay, what world am I in? Because none of this is working. And so you have to start adapting, right? It's an adaptive change. And all those things you thought you knew don't work for you. And that's going to start happening to leaders over time. I think in the next 15 years is they're going to becoming more clear that the status quo is just not working for them anymore. And instead of just reading a bunch of management books, they're going to say, you know what? We have to break free. We have to break the status quo. And I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
And I just think leaders, it's not that they don't want all the things we're talking about. They're simply using the methods we've been using for decades to try to solve it. That's a technical fix to an adaptive problem. We have an adaptive problem. And all those technical fixes, team building, pizza parties, giving a person an extra day off, giving you a badge to wear jeans that day, all that stuff is out of date. And it's not what we want anymore, and it doesn't fit contemporary society. I like to say we're living in a contemporary society with a 20th century management mindset. That is the mismatch right there.
I think you're spot on there. Sometimes they always say things like, oh, you were too early. And it seems to me that you might have been, it's starting off at 2004 with the concept, it might have been quite early there. But I think you're right. It's coming to a point where more and more organizations, more and more leaders within organizations will realize, and the pain of staying the same will be greater than the pain of needing to change. And that's when they'll start looking elsewhere, right? That's where they'll actively be like, who can help me with this problem that I'm having right now? So I think it's a really, really interesting point you mentioned there.
I'm waiting for that day, Saeed. I'm waiting for that day.
Fingers crossed it's not too far away. Fingers crossed it's not too
that's
far.
Right. Patience.
Patience, 100%. So in this segment of the podcast, we like to call the Entrepreneur's Room. And this is a series of questions we like to ask all of our guests to give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to understand how a business leader, a business owner thinks and operates in their business. So the first question I like to ask at this stage of the podcast to all of our guests is, how are you currently spending your days as a leader of the business?
Besides pulling my hair out? So really, Saeed, 3 things. I'm looking at macro trends. I keep watching sort of the rubber band effect of what's happening out there and kind of where we can re-message and help leaders keep moving forward. So I'm watching macro trends. I'm talking to a lot of business leaders. Where are your pain points today? What is it that you're struggling with? To see if it's changed and if there's, again, another way we can message how we can help so that we can get in there and help moving them past that stuck point. And lots of networking. That's how I spend my day. I want to keep a pulse on things and I want to make sure that our message stays relevant and pure. And results only work environment is not a flavor of the month. It's not going away. So I want to keep having the conversation with people. The more we can talk about it, the more people can think about it, let it gel, let it simmer. And then when they're ready, they can come back and talk about it some more.
Absolutely. It's just planting that seed, right? And watering that seed every chance you get to let it 100%. What are the most important metrics for you? What matters the most when running your business and going through that day to day? What do you look at from a bird's eye view, metrics wise? So
the most important metrics for me are the metrics that my clients achieve. So there's things about, my own business, revenue, all of those things that we all look at. But for me, it's making sure that what I say I'm going to do and help them with actually happens. So I look at that.
Practicing what you preach.
Yeah, that would be good. Because if I'm the results only work environment, right, we better be getting some results over there. So, our job and my job, and that's how the measurement comes around, is business needs to get better. Are you saving money? Are you making money? Right? People need to be more efficient and effective and engaged and connected to your purpose. That's a measure. We can measure some of that, engagement, turnover, all those kind of things. And are people able to connect to each other and to their communities in a contemporary fashion with technology today? I look at those measures and I'm always making sure that I talk about those measures, especially with human resources, so that they can hit their goals and what they're trying to do for the organization. That's what's important to me.
I love hearing that. It's always interesting to hear what business owners think and how things are. In terms of then growing your organization, you touched on it just not a moment ago with business development. How are you currently growing the organization? What kind of business development activities are you currently doing? Is it just networking? Are you going to conferences? Are you running meta ads? What is it that you're doing to grow the organization?
So we are in a time right now globally, and I'm not going to get into politics or anything, but our focus that organizations have right now is not necessarily on what they might consider soft skills. So being in a consulting business like this right now is very difficult. It's hard to get the attention of leaders to sort of rip the Band-Aid off and say, you got to start changing right now, because they're like, whoa, this is happening, that's happening, all these things are happening. So for me, and I talked about this a little bit ago, it's patience and still doing what I'm doing, networking, talking. I do speaking engagements. I'm working on a third book called The Autonomy Economy. Right now, that book is not, the timing isn't right because of some of the unrest everywhere. So I'm kind of hunkered down right now. Not keeping my eyes closed or burying my head in the sand, but being very aware of what businesses are going through and how business leaders are trying to stay relevant and on top of all of this. So hats off to all of us consultants out there that are hanging in there and still knowing that sometimes companies get what they want, but they're not getting what they need. And so I'm waiting for that switch to happen as well. Organizations spend a lot of money on things that they think they want, which is more flavor of the month programs. And it's not what they need right now. It's not what they need.
I couldn't agree with you more. I like to end every single podcast with the same question, and I always love listening to the different answers that we get. But if you had a magic wand you could wave to solve one business problem, what would that be?
So the magic wand. I've been carrying that around for a long time, trying to wave it. But right now, there's rapidly changing market trends, and there's advances in technology all happening. And I feel like the one thing that needs to be solved is creating the atmosphere and culture that people can be adaptive and respond to all of this and not feel penned in, right? We have to be more nimble and able to move and able to communicate and not have so many policies and rules on top of us that are holding us back from that. That's the magic wand I'm waving. And that means just overall guiding leaders towards leading with autonomy. And I'm waving my magic wand all over to say we need a work culture that can keep pace with contemporary society. And we're decades behind. So my magic wand is there.
I love it. I love it. Jody, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. It's been really insightful and thoroughly great conversation. So thank you very much for sharing your time. For our viewers and listeners who may want to reach out to you, where would they go to find you?
They can go to our website, GoRowe, GOROWE.com, and they'll find a lot of information there, and they can reach out through our contact page, or people can reach out to me directly. I'll just say it quickly, Jody, JODY.Thompson, THOMPSON @ I'd love to hear from people, and let's keep the conversation going. That's what's important.
Absolutely. We'll put all those links into the description of the podcast. But again, Jody, it's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you. It's been great for me too, Saeed. Thanks again.
No worries.